Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now we are done with the main ranking part of the series. We did the top 20 champions in MCOC, and today we're going to be talking about best use of Awakening Gems. Now first of all, keep in mind that this is strictly kind of like a personal thing. It entirely depends on what class gems you have, how many you have, which class needs help, how many sig stones you can invest, what you're trying to do in the game, so on and so forth. And obviously these champions are going to be kind of like my thoughts on the matter that I list here. And I will do my best to explain them relatively briefly. But first of all, I do think that there are somewhat rules of thumb when it comes to Awakening Gem use. Number one is, if you're going to use an Awakening Gem, make sure that you do have an immediate use for that champion. Do not give a gem to a champion that you think is going to be great, but you can't do much with it right now. Just make sure that that champion right now will help you achieve something. That is crucial. I kind of use basically the same principle when it comes to which rank 4s I end up doing. And it has saved me a ton of catalysts because, for a long time I wanted Scream, and then I got Scream, and I duped Scream, and I thought, okay, awesome, I can finally rank her up. But then I looked at the Battlegrounds metas, I looked at the Lions War metas, and I realized, well, I guess I didn't really need Scream, and so my Scream's still not ranked up because, there hasn't been like any particular need for that champion. Second thing is, when it comes to Awakening Gem use, we need to take in consideration the champion rarity. How likely are you going to be able to awaken the champion naturally, or how unlikely that is going to happen? So therefore, many of the trophy champions will kind of be automatically included in here. A good example here would be like Nick Fury. If you got Nick Fury for the first time from the 2025 Rare Champion Selector, that's a no-brainer, because you're not going to pull Nick Fury just about in any other way for a long time, because he's not available in the crystals. So there you go. The third thing is, again, how often you use that champion, and then it's also how much the champion needs to be awakened. But most of the champions really do want to be awakened. Let's jump straight into the Mutant class. And Mutant class doesn't actually really have any type of massive favorites. And we're going to be, and unlike the other lists, these are not going to be ranked in order from like 30 to 1 or something like that. These are going to be, again, per class, because number one, that's, again, how most people have the gems. You generally will most often have class gems available to you. And number two, it entirely depends on which champions you already have awakened. But let's get to it. So I think without a brain, Onslaught is absolutely worth an Awakening Gem. Also, him being in the base pool, he's not super easy to pull anymore. And if you do have an unduped Onslaught, he's perfectly viable. But at the same time, number one, he does have one of the highest prestiges in the game. If you care about that, that is a massive incentive there. Second of all, increasing the Daunted potency by 33% is fairly big deal for him as well, given that you will end up applying 10 of these. And since he's a champion that gets used constantly, that always has an immediate use because he's like a staple in every game mode, I think he's a no-brainer champion to awaken. Moving on, Jean Grey, absolutely crucial to get her awakened. Now, she's okay rank up unawakened as well, but that stun passive is huge. It's super helpful, and you do want to have that. And other things that we can see here, increased neuroshock duration obviously translates to increased damage output. So yeah, you do want to have your Jean Grey awakened for sure, especially for offensive use. The other thing is, here the one thing that I would consider is, because she's still in the Titan Crystal, how many Titan Crystals are you going to open while she's still in it? If you're still going to be opening Titan Crystals, maybe I'd wait on awakening Jean Grey. But for instance, if like me, you have decided not to open any more Titan Crystals for a while, I'd gem it up. And that's another thing with your personal decisions, kind of like leeway here a lot. For instance, since I am not going to be opening Titan Crystals for a bit now, I gave an Awakening Gem to Baron Zemo, even though chances of me duping him if I keep opening Titan Crystals are quite high. At the same time, I don't want to do that, so I just gave him a gem. But it's entirely up to you. Captain Britain. Captain Britain is quite straightforward. She is, one of the best mutants in the game, and it's impossible to pull her. If you do have her, you do want to get her awakened as well. Why not? Because it does make her more annoying defender for some champions, for some matchups, because some of her counters kind of rely on having energy resistance or regioning back a bit of damage. The higher sig she has, basically the less energy resistance opponents will have and the more damage they will end up taking. Likewise, offensively too, it will help her unlock a few matchups on attack as well, but it's not the biggest part, therefore still. Absolutely worth giving her a gem. And Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister's awakening is absolutely underrated. He does like to be awakened and high save because these bonuses that you get are absolutely no joke. His awakening does make him a better attacker, a better defender, and he is in the base pool now, and he has never been like widely available in Titan. So if he's not awakened, he's definitely a champion that I would give an awakening gem to as well. Moving on to the next class in tech, we have Fam. I think Fam, again, is one of the hardest champions to acquire in the game. He's absolutely a relevant champion in the game, and therefore you do want to get him awakened. Nimrod is a very similar argumentation. There's only been one place where you can awaken him, and he does desperately need his awakening. If Fam is still serviceable, unawakened, there will be some matchups you can't do, obviously, but Nimrod is day and night. Nimrod does want to be awakened and super high sig. So Nimrod is a solid option. Similar to Sentinel, if you do not have him awakened, he is definitely something you want to go after because increased debuff duration, that's massive for him because again, that's the heal blocks, that's the incinerates, that's the shocks, and these armor buffs, obviously this is giving him like a massive defensive threat as well. So Sentinel, again, you absolutely do want to get him awakened as well if you do not have him. Then you have Starhand Spider-Man, because number one, he really does need it. He doesn't need high sig. Sig, I don't know, 40 is fine, but he has completely different damage output, and you can't pull him from any basic crystals. So Starhand Spider-Man, I think, is a no-brainer awakening. And Bastion as well, honestly, is kind of a good awakening, because if you do like Bastion, if you're gonna be using him, then personal fury potency is a fairly big deal for him, and yeah, you do want to get him awakened for sure. Right, let's move on. In the Cosmic class, Serpent. Serpent is a non-entity on defense, unawakened basically, and this does make him a lot more dangerous. He's also like one of the top 3 champions in the game. Great everywhere. Useful awaken ability, get it done. Moving on, Hulkling, kind of similar argument to Fam. He does want to be awakened as well, and actually relatively high sig. Some people say, you know, sig 20 or sig 100 is fine. No, not really, because that fury duration increase that he gets for up to 3 seconds for Hulkling is quite massive, and it is very significant. Also, that armor penetration will come in handy. For instance, in the Solvark matchups. Therefore, yeah, Hulkling is a solid target. Kal, without his awakened ability, is significantly worse as a champion because he does lose quite a bit of damage output, and that's what he's there for. So Kal is a decent target. Carolina Dean, again, she's one of those champions that functions decently well unawakened, but number one, you do get to increase your damage output quite significantly when at max sig, for instance, because for each iridescence buff, gain 5% incinerate increased potency up to 6, so you get 30% incinerate potency increase. That's fairly massive for her. On top of that, you get to pulverize armor up effects. On top of that, you can block heavy attacks without, you know, worrying about anything. And yeah, it is quite useful, and it helps her easier to be played as well, because then you can just hold block and bait out heavy attack and get all your energy vulnerabilities on opponent, and then nuke them down with this. Right. Besides that, let's move on to the Mystic class. In the Mystic, the reason why I didn't include Thanos, right? I remember this is meant to be Thanos. I'm not listing Thanos here as a good target for awakening, and the reason for that is very simple. Don't be lazy. If you have Thanos, you can do an easy run of Necropolis with the Deathless champions. They don't even need to be rank 3, like I did my run mainly with like a rank 3 Thanos and rank 2 Deathless She-Hulk. And it's super easy, takes an hour and a bit, and you're gonna get this guy awakened and signature stones for him and all that stuff. So don't be lazy. So no, Thanos is not a good use of an awakening gem. Thanos is just people being lazy. Right, let's move on. Nico Minoru, the best mystic in the game for sure, desperately needs to be awakened and max sig. That's like a no-brainer type thing. If you have a Nico, have an awakening gem, get it done. Moving on, Tigra. Again, still super rare, kind of like Nick Fury. She does want to be awakened and max sig. And she is extremely capable and a relevant champion if you know how to play her. And you're not going to get to pull her from just about anywhere for quite a while. There's no fear of duping her. Moving on, Absman, I don't think I need to explain much. He just appeared. Very unique. Again, you're not going to get to pull him, and he does want and need and demands to be at a max sig as well, mainly because of the increase in Omniforms here. Then Kindred. And I'm not joking. I'm genuinely currently considering which one to awaken and rank up first, Absman or Kindred, because Kindred currently is one of the very few relevant Mystic defenders. And Kabam messing with the recovery times in the game and AI and putting up root metas. Man, this man's a menace, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And he absolutely, obviously, does want and need to be awakened. And I think he's a very good target for it. There's also no easy way to pull him because base pull is so large now. Moving on, New Spidey. New Spidey does not necessarily need to be super high sig, but he does need to be awakened. And that mainly comes from this ability. For each buff on the opponent, reduce duration of inexorable and stoppable effects. That's good. Energy vulnerability pause, that's nice. And the marked passive potency. That's what's the key there. You do want to have this too. So, yeah. If you do have Pavitr, then you do want to have him awakened. You might not need to max sig him, even though it doesn't hurt, because he has super high prestige, but you do need to get him awakened, in my opinion. Moving on, Kushala. Kushala's awaken ability is super underrated. There's just not much else I'm going to say about it. One of the best Mystic champions. Super useful awaken ability. You can get it awakened too. Skill class, Kingpin. Quite easy to explain. You're not going to pull him anywhere. And he does have 3 thresholds of sig levels. He does have sig 1, he has sig 65, and he has sig 200. That is kind of like the important marks there, because that determines how many rages you will get at the beginning of the fight and how much chance you have to get the rages after your overpower buff ends. So his awaken ability is important, and I think he's worth a gem. And obviously we have Nick Fury, which is absolutely a no-brainer. You can't pull him. His entire kit basically is dependent on that sig ability, so there you go. Okoye. Okoye does not need to be max sig, again, even though it doesn't necessarily hurt because she's super high in prestige, but it's this ability. Top tier armaments grants 3 ranks of deep wounds mastery, which is enhanced to include shock debuffs and inflict instant bleeds, and then it synergizes with her ability to go past the mastery limits, basically. But yeah, it's super important. Even if it's just sig 1, you can do that. It's absolutely worth it. Get her awakened. Punisher. I'm not going to say too much here. You're probably not going to get him for like at least a year, so it's absolutely worth it. If you do like Stealth with Spidey, similar idea. You don't know when you're next going to get him, and he absolutely does want to be awakened, because that does give him a fairly massive increase in the Fury potency, which gives him a fairly massive increase in damage, because he crits so much. Any extra kind of like percentage on that Fury will matter quite a bit. And lastly, Valkyrie. Again, super hard to acquire, quite high prestige. You're not going to pull her again. So those would mainly be the champions that kind of like, to me, are definitely strongly up for consideration. But again, especially if I want to rank them, especially if I want to use them, and again, mainly because if I have immediate use for them. Now, I'm not telling you to rush and rank up any of these champions if you do not choose to do so. That's why we have the ranking videos effectively. But if you have decided that you want to have access to these champions, then these are the ones, in my opinion, that absolutely do deserve the Awakened gem. There are others, like Black Panther Civil War. but again, that would immediately require SIG 200 investment. I think that's also a good target, and it depends what you're trying to achieve in game. If prestige is what you're after, then obviously, you know, Baron Zemo and Quicksilver. And speaking of which, I will also leave this link in the video description. It kind of highlights champions by prestige. And I know for many of you, that will also be a determining factor with champions potentially to invest. So I will leave a link to this sheet in the video description, so you can kind of go over to see how impactful each champion's prestige would be for you, and kind of like marry these two bits of information together, the prestige list exactly, and this video with like some of the potential options. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And in the next one, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the signature stones. There's also going to be two caveats to it. Obviously, one is going to rely on this one, which is going to say, hey, if you're after prestige, take some of the best champions and, you know, rank up for that. And then there's going to be the ignoring prestige, which champions need that SIG ability desperately and are worthy of the 6 stones. Right, I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next